Welcome Year 6 parents to our Year 6 curriculum video. Really pleased that you could join us, albeit virtually this year, for the information evening. We will kick off by just running through briefly what we're going to be talking about. Obviously, we'll introduce you to the members of the team who you may or may not be aware of. We'll talk to you about what the curriculum holds for your children this year, and we'll also answer what I hope will be the questions that you might have had you been here in person. So the teaching team is Mr. Herbert, who you can see, and myself. Mrs. Andrews will also form part of our teaching team along with Mrs. Greenland. So once a fortnight, we have a Wednesday where we have our PPA sessions. So Mrs. Greenland and Mrs. Andrews will be covering those sessions. Mrs. Andrews will also be part of our teaching, at least up until Christmas as well. On Thursdays and Fridays, she'll be supporting in classes as well. We are fortunate to have a wide teaching assistant support team. Mrs. Field, who works primarily in 6H, Mrs. Flenley, who works primarily in 6W, and also Mrs. Judge and Mrs. Phillips, who work more closely with individual pupils within 6H. I think most of the other roles are fairly self-explanatory, so I'll let Mr. Herbert continue.
So we'll start with just talking about attendance and how things have changed ever so slightly since July. So the times of school, so drop-off is still at 8:40 or between 8:45 and 8:55, and that's sort of to allow that easing in of pupils in the mornings, as well as pickup now being a set 3:15 for all pupils. It's important for us to talk about lateness and how that does impact on your child. Particularly in Year 6, it's very full on, and in the morning during those registration times, there are periods where we will be doing work, including practicing of spellings, independent grammar work, and of course marking of the homework. So it's really important for us that the children get there on time and are ready to sort of get going as they walk in the door. Of course, we want to aim for 100% attendance, and that is our target, but as is always the way, any feelings of being unwell, sickness, diarrhea, or obviously still COVID symptoms, please don't come to school, and make sure you report that to the office so that we are fully aware. The letter was sent out going back last June, I believe, just with some sort of changes, including the school streets trial, which will be in operation or is in operation at the moment. So it's just a message to say, can you continue to park considerately around the school area? Also to mention that all parents and children are to access and exit the school through the small pedestrian gates, so that's either side of the road leading in. The junior gate, so that's the one right next to my classroom, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, will be open at 8:45, and the children are to walk straight round into their classrooms. And fortunately for Year 6, they can use their classroom fire exit, so they've just got a very short walk before they're in their classroom. The school day does officially start at 8:55, and anybody arriving after that will be marked as late and must come through the main office. Juniors will, as they have done in the past, walk round to the front playground with their teacher, ready to be collected by yourselves.
And just to reiterate on that, I think it's been really encouraging the times that children are getting to school, how quickly they're settling into their classroom routines. Obviously, we're recording this a few days into the school term, and it's been really positive to see how in such a good mindset the children are ready to learn, ready to go as soon as they get in the door, as close to 2:45 as they're able to. So that's been fantastic. So thank you for your cooperation with that. It's been very well received from us. So what will the children learn during the year? So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to point you in the direction of various things which are on the school website. So our curriculum at Warden Hill obviously is intertwined with the national curriculum. We then tailor it to suit our individual needs and provide topics which allow for curriculum progression in the various subjects. So everything that you want can be found on the website. That will give you curriculum progressions for all of our subjects, and you'll see not just where the children are going to end up at the end of this year, but where they have progressed from in those different subject areas there as well. So I'm sure you could read more than your heart could possibly desire in terms of our curriculum areas. You will also find on there our year group curriculum map that has been uploaded and updated for this academic year. So you will find that on there as well. And Mr. Herbert will go into a few details as to what we are going to be covering this year, but there is a wealth that you couldn't possibly be told in one video meeting. So should you wish to know what we're doing in Spring 2 in geography, then you can look there and that will show you exactly what's going to be going on. Equally, the curriculum newsletter, which has already gone out, I know that we've had lots of responses from parents who have seen those already, so thank you to those parents, which includes things like the events going on, particularly this term. So there's another pointer to look out for if you haven't seen it already.
As Mr. Williams just said, I'll go into slightly more detail. So obviously we look at the various areas of the academic year, and we have a wealth of different units of work in which your children will be given a purpose across a range of fiction, non-fiction and poetry in their writing, as well as the same when it comes to guided reading and developing the use from the skills from our Vipers, which I'm sure you'll all be familiar with, and they're pointed out on the bottom of the slide there as well. So it's those 6 different areas that we sort of focus on in those discrete guided reading lessons. Speaking and listening is another area which we are really keen to give opportunities to develop. That will start this week in the form of reading poetry that the children will be creating in their lessons, as well as the house, vice and sports elections that we've got coming up. And further on through the year, we will have opportunities for the class to debate various topics and subjects and use those skills. Now, at Warden Hill, we really understand the importance and the value in reading, but not only just in reading as individuals, but also listening to others read as well. And it's been a big hit since it sort of came in. And what this looks like is that teachers will read daily to the class an overarching book, which we then use actually the following week in a specific guided reading session on Monday. And we have started this year with the book Show Us Who You Are, which has already started to sort of tweak the interest of some and make us question what's going on. So it's a really, really positive start to the year. In maths, we follow a set scheme in almost every year group where we will start the year looking at place value, moving on to arithmetic, the 4 operations, before getting sort of a bit deeper into it in terms of fractions, decimals, percentages, and then geometry as the year goes on. Our first science unit for this term is living things in their habitats. And in geography, we are asking ourselves the question, is it okay to visit the Himalayas as a tourist? And the history, which we don't actually cover this term, will be taught later on, is going to be what led to the decline of the Maya. And over the course of the year, we will make our way through a handful of class reads, including D-Day Dog, apologies, by Tom Palmer. And I will let Mr. Williams take over from there.
Yeah, it's been really encouraging, obviously alluding again to the fact that actually we're a few days into the term now. It's been lovely to see how the children have been enthused and engaged by our geography units. We've been using the iPads this afternoon to explore different mountain ranges in the world and also look at those peaks. So again, another area that is already piquing their interest, to use Mr. Herbert's phrase. But homework is something that we are already getting ourselves immersed in. Obviously, we gave them the Thursday and the Friday just to find their feet, and we weren't going to be setting any homework then. And we've phased it in a graduated style this week. So they will, by tomorrow, have been given all of their homeworks, tomorrow being Wednesday, being given all of their homework books so that they can basically start to form that routine, because that's a really difficult routine. Well, it can be a difficult routine to establish, especially after a long summer holiday. So we will make sure that we are keeping a very, very close eye on children completing their homework, but also supporting them where they need to. So the right hand side of your screen there, you will see the table which indicates the types of homework that children are set. So every night from Monday to Thursday, the children will have homework to complete, which is due in therefore on the Tuesday through Friday. The SPAG is basically 3 pages from their CGP SPAG book, which they're probably all familiar with from previous years. And we typically set 1 bedrock. We're actually waiting for bedrock to be repopulated and re-updated with the new classes. So at the moment, we're just going with the SPAG book, and equally 4 pages from their maths book as well. As I said, those are due in on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but we set all of that on a Monday. So the children have the option, should they so wish, to get all of that homework completed and out of the way if they want to. Obviously, they need to have Monday's homework done ready for Tuesday, but other than that, they have a decision to make as to when they do it, as long as it's done by the due date. We also have a reading journal task. You may remember the shift that the reading journal tasks took last year from a sort of half-page written response to more of a discussion, something which we are using to hopefully drive their interest and inspire them to read different texts. So they will have their reading journal tasks set on a Monday, and they will then be discussed in class. So for that, the children basically need to come back armed with a few bullet points, having read a text or listened to something or seen something that we've set them to do. And then be ready to discuss it on Thursday. Fridays are our spelling test days. They're also the days where we have our spelling teaching session. So we do the teaching session one Friday, give them the words, they stick them in their home and school spelling books before taking them away, practicing them 3 times over the week, and preparing for the test the following week. We will occasionally take in their home spelling books just to monitor their home spellings as well. So just to make sure that we're on top of that, we will take in their reading books weekly to check that they are reading regularly as well, because that is the most important thing that we can encourage them to do in year 6 and throughout the school, is to read regularly. So we'll be checking that they are reading 4 times. And we will also be monitoring the types of books they're reading, making sure that if they're reading the same author 3 times in a row, we might encourage them to read another book, and we can help them using our class libraries to encourage the sort of diverse texts and genres that they might be interested in, because we are fortunate to have such a wealth of resources in our reading corners. So lots to be going on with at school and at home. But if you do have any questions about homework, you are very welcome to use the admin contact, which will then get forwarded back to us, and we can offer you support in explaining perhaps how we approach things, particularly in maths. I think sometimes I've certainly historically been approached about how do you teach this, so you're very welcome to send questions like that our way, and we will be more than happy to answer them. The only other thing on homework is that as year 6s, we offer a homework club that is bespoke to year 6. Some children have been invited to homework club previously in other year groups, but we do a year 6 homework club on Tuesday lunchtimes, where the children can, having had a look at their homework on a Monday night, they can bring it in on a Tuesday lunchtime, and we can spend half an hour with them. Or if they don't need help and they just want a quiet opportunity to spend half an hour on their homework, they can do that on Tuesday lunchtimes as well. So the children are aware of that, but just so that you're aware, if there are any things that you say, well, why don't you take that to homework club and the teacher can explain it to you there, that's always a good option for some parents and some children.
Fantastic. So now going on to what your child needs on a daily basis. So the curriculum newsletter provided information of PE and days when kit is necessary. The current way that's working, again, a slight change from how we finished last year. So the children need to come to school dressed in their games kit or their PE kit, wearing their school shoes, and obviously if it's cold, their school navy jumper, but then to bring their trainers or football boots, if appropriate, in their school bag. The reason being that it allows us to have a very quick changeover, and they can just change their shoes until the lesson and at the start of the PE or the games session, and obviously because then it means that we're not traipsing a lot of mud, and if it's maybe wet outside, keeping the school as clean as possible. It is worth noting that after the October half term, unfortunately our year 6 yoga sessions will be finished. And we will revert back to kit being required on a Monday and a Friday rather than the current Monday and Tuesday setup. In terms of the things that need to come in hands, we've got things like water bottles, coat. It's really important that the children bring their reading book, their reading journal, their academic diary and their homework books in every day, as well as a school bag, probably to put all of those things in. And it is, like I said, it is really important that they come back in every day, because we do use them an awful lot, and it gives us a chance to talk and discuss those with the children, and means they're always ready to go. So in year 6 we are happy, and I'm sure this was the same last year, we are happy for the children to bring in a pencil case that can include coloured highlighters and pens and things that they can use when note taking and annotating in or during lessons. And as teachers and teaching assistants, we will make them aware of when it's suitable or appropriate for them to use the things that they bring in. When school clubs start up again and the children sign up to the sporting club, they need to bring the kit to get changed into after school. So if they don't have PE or games as part of their class schedule or their class timetable, they need to come in their school uniform and then change for their club. Obviously, if they have games and PE on that day, then it's a win-win because they'll be in their kit already. Another note that is the same every year is please make sure that all kit clothes included is clearly named. They are now at a point where they should be responsible and hold on to everything, but on the off chance that something goes wandering, it's really important that we can get it back to its rightful owner. Something else that is necessary to discuss with particularly Year 6 is the use of mobile phones or bringing a mobile phone to school. Now, if it is completely necessary for your child to bring a phone, that's absolutely fine, but they need to make sure they switch it off upon entry to school, and in both classes there will be somewhere for them to put it as they make their way into the classroom, and then it's kept safe in the admin office until they will have it returned at the end of the day, particularly if they need it for things like walking home and things like that. So just a note on that.
Yeah, the other thing that we ask the children to put in that bucket, in that place, just because it will go into a secure location, is any house keys. So if you have children who you are happy to let themselves in when they get home in the afternoon, we ask them to put their keys in there as well, just simply because it's a secure location, but just to add to that as well. So how do we let your children know how they're getting on, and what assessments do we have this year? So I'll start with what I suspect lots of us are wondering. SATs are happening as far as we know. Obviously, there have been a couple of years where they haven't happened because of COVID ramifications, but we are anticipating that they will be happening this year, and again they will be in May, as they always are. If you want the specific dates, they can be searched. They're available online well in advance, so you can find out the specific dates, but it'll be in mid-May, as they always are. So what those assessments are, how they are structured: we do a reading paper, which is 1 hour long. It consists of 3 different texts. We do a SPAG and spelling paper, so SPAG, which is spelling, punctuation and grammar, as well as a spelling paper. There are 3 maths papers, which sounds daunting, but actually it's just to cover the breadth of curriculum content that we do cover in school. One is a discrete arithmetic paper, so that will include sort of the 4 operations, but also fractions, decimals, percentages. And then 2 reasoning papers. I know Mr. Herbert's made mention of the different types of maths that we are going to be taking part in, but you can imagine the breadth of our maths curriculum, and that can be seen online should you so wish. But those are covered within the reasoning paper. There's no writing SATs paper, although we do assess their writing at the end of the year, usually in moderation with other schools, and potentially an external moderation as well. We shall wait to see on that. But we will let you know how your children are getting on in parents' evenings through their reports. You'll already be very familiar with the sort of the language and the terminology we use to describe their attainment up to in the reports. So I won't go into that detail here. But we also talk to the children. As Year 6 pupils, we understand that they have an awareness of their abilities within the classroom, the things that they are good at and the things equally that they find difficult. And after a little while, we start to introduce them to the idea of scores and the things that they can do to get better at. They look back at the tests that they might have taken, to give them that ownership and the responsibility of thinking, right, well, how am I going to get better? What am I good at? And giving them something concrete to think, right, what am I already good at, but what can I get better at? So there is more of an onus in Year 6 on them being understanding of what they can improve through their assessments.
Further to everything that we've already discussed, obviously we have a huge number of opportunities in order to support your child's wider personal development. Not only, I mean, I could sit and talk through this entire list, but of course we have our inter-house events, which becomes a really big part of Year 6 because it's those who represent their house as house captains, vice captains or sports captains. Of course, we have our science ambassadors who are responsible for keeping the teachers in check during science lessons and making sure that we're marking off everything that we're doing and all the different scientific skills that we've been using. We have class librarians, after school clubs in a wealth of sporting opportunities, as well as our forest school sessions. And then more importantly, we have our school trips, which obviously are linked to the curriculum, and there is obviously the much anticipated PGL trip for Year 6, as well as wider school trips like the Literature Festival and Science Festival, and a whole host of other ones, but I can let you read those for yourselves.
So just to finish up, really, hopefully we have covered more questions than you might have had, let's say, but there will of course be more information coming up as the year progresses. There'll be other events, so keep an eye on those newsletters, both the ones that come out as our curriculum newsletters, but also the weekly newsletters. Do keep an eye on the bulletin as well, because if there are any changes week on week, that's where you will get that information, as well as using expressions. But I think primarily if you use the bulletin, that's going to be a good point for you. All of the documents that we've discussed are available on the school website, but should you wish to get in touch about anything specific, do so via the email address on their admin app, and then it gets forwarded on to us. So all that remains to say is thank you for getting this far, if indeed you have. We appreciate the time taken to watch the video, and obviously we may well speak to you individually, but otherwise thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.